there, I'm Kaylin Stewart and welcome to this episode of Yeti Powers. So in our last episode, we talked about a bunch of different things that can be powered by a Goal Zero Yeti power station around the home. And today we're going to roll through a number of different camping scenarios and talk about some different things that can be powered anywhere from in a van to a trailer or any other off-grid camping scenario. So let's get started. Alrighty, so let's get started here with our Goal Zero Yeti 1400 lithium power station, which stores 1400 watt hours of power and is a really awesome option for powering things around the van, whether you're living full-time on the road or simply going out for a weekend or a week-long adventure. One of the first things that people generally think to need power for in a van are lights, and one of the first options that generally people reach for are Christmas lights. So we've got our Christmas lights here plugged in, and Christmas lights are an awesome option. However, they actually are a little bit heavier on the power draw. So we've got them plugged in and they're turned on here. And if we look at our information display, we can see that they are pulling 55 watts. One of the really cool things about our Yeti lithium power stations is that you can also actually toggle through the screens and check runtime. So essentially you can see that if I've got my Christmas lights plugged into this power station and that's the only thing I've got plugged in at the moment, they're gonna run for X amount of hours, and you can check that right here. Another option for lighting your van if you don't want to use the Christmas lights would be to go with LED lights, such as our Goal Zero Light a Life 350 here. So let's plug this in and see what we've got. Alrighty, so as you can see, if you look on the display here, we're still only pulling 4 watts. So if you bring that down even lower, you can see we're only going to pull 1 watt. So the really neat thing about the 350s is that they're chainable. So even if you want to chain, let's say, 8 Light a Life 350s to light up your van, you're still going to be pulling significantly less power than these Christmas lights, which we can remember pulled about 55 watts. So these Light a Life 350s are a great, more power conservative option, but the Christmas lights will certainly run well off the Yetis as well. So whether you are working full-time on the road as a professional photographer or you simply want to be able to capture your adventures on camera and have the ability to upload them and edit them while you're off-grid camping, it's important to be able to keep your laptop charged, your camera batteries charged, also might want to power drone batteries, additional camera equipment, or tablets. And right now I've kind of got the whole setup going where I've got my laptop, I've got my camera batteries plugged in, and I'm only pulling about 23, 24 watts. Now it is important to mention that right now my computer is pretty much fully charged. So if your computer was at 40, 50, 60%, that wattage would go up a bit. So a good thing to do is make sure that you've got your computer charged ahead of time, and that way when you plug it in, you're kind of just maintaining. But as you can see kind of how the setup is right now, you have plenty of power to be able to work through the day or even throughout the night if you need to add lights in the mix to be able to work when it's dark out. Your Yeti should be able to handle that just fine and keep you plugging away. All right, now let's dive into what is one of my favorite parts of camping, which is cooking outdoors. So a lot of people keep food cold when they're camping just simply by using a cooler, and that's awesome. If you do want to venture into the world of portable refrigeration, there are some options like this here Dometic Fridge. So the things to keep in mind about these guys is that the fridge really only requires a bunch of power when the compressor kicks on to adjust the temperature and get it to that cold setting. So there are a lot of things you can do to actually kind of manage how much power you're using with this fridge. One of them being get it cold before you go. You know, plug it in at home, get it cold, and then make sure to keep the lid shut nice and tight while you're out camping, and that'll help keep that power draw to a minimum and just kind of keep it maintaining while you're camping. So let's plug it into the Yeti and see where it's at. Alrighty, so it's ramping up here a bit. It looks like we're kind of around 40 watts here as it's kicking on, and it's already set here at 23 degrees Fahrenheit. So generally what we say, with this Dometic, it's going to work great with the Yeti. If it's all you're running off of the Yeti, you're probably going to get about 2 to 3 days worth of power in here and be able to keep your food nice and cold while you're camping over the weekend. Next up, we've got some blenders here. So if you want to make a delicious fruit smoothie in the morning or a green smoothie in the afternoon, you might want to consider bringing along a blender. So we've got 2 options here. We've got a big Ninja blender here and then a smaller Magic Bullet. So let's first take a look at the power specs here and see what we've got. It looks like the Ninja is rated at 900 watts. And if we take a look on the Magic Bullet, this guy is rated at 250 watts. So right off the bat, that kind of gives us a sense of where things are going to go, but let's run them and see what happens. Alrighty, so it looks like the Ninja was running, but it was pulling about 450 watts or so. So definitely a lot of power, maybe not the most sustainable option. There are different power settings you can always adjust, but let's give the Magic Bullet a try. Alrighty, and so the Magic Bullet was running well at about 180 watts. So, you could use both. If you're going to go with the Ninja, you're probably going to drain your power pretty quickly, whereas the Magic Bullet is a great way to make a morning smoothie and still have plenty of power left for the rest of your day. Here we've got a number of different ways to cook food outside. We've got our induction plate, we've got a griddle, we've got a Traeger grill, and each of these work a little bit differently, are gonna draw a little bit different amount of power. So let's plug them all in and see how they run. So we're gonna start off with our induction plate and plug that in here. That started. Alrighty, so right off the bat, that looks like we're pulling about 820 watts. So that's gonna work just fine. It's gonna power the induction plate. And it looks like we've got a run time of about 2.5 hours to empty. So you could definitely use this to cook something up. Now let's move on to the griddle. So that's heating up, and right off the bat here, it looks like we're pulling about 1400 watts. So that's a lot more power than the induction plate. So the griddle is going to run off the Yeti, and especially if you've got the solar to back it up, you can definitely cook some food on this. And it'll work with the Yeti just fine. It just might go through some of your power a little bit quicker. But especially if you've got the solar to back it up, you can use the griddle. Now let's move on to the Traeger. Put it on smoke here. And the Traeger, as you can see, draws a lot less power. It's only drawing about 240 watts of power. So the Traeger grills are going to work awesome with this Yeti 1400. The induction plate will run, the griddle plate will run. These two, are good options if you've got some solar to back them up, if you just kind of want to cook for a little bit with them. And the Traeger's going really nicely. While camping in converted vans has certainly increased in popularity over the past couple years, pop-up trailers have been a staple of the camping world for a long time. And now, while a lot of the power usage from van life is going to carry over into trailer life, we are going to talk about a couple different devices and electronics and things you might use in a trailer. So we're going to start off with something that we get asked about a lot, which is medical devices, powering medical devices, and specifically CPAP machines. So powering CPAP machines is a little bit tricky because the power usage is really going to vary from user to user. Things like having a humidifier, having your CPAP set at different pressures, that's all going to affect your power draw. So we've got a CPAP machine here, so let's plug this in and get this going and see what the power draw is. Alrighty, so it's running here, and so we've got our CPAP machine set at 3, and it looks like it's pulling about 33 watts. So this machine running at this setting is probably going to run just fine through the night. Like I said, though, since the power jaw really varies from user to user depending on what kind of CPAP you use and other variables, we do recommend that you can always call your CPAP manufacturer in order to get some of those specific power jaw specs. Alrighty, so next up, we've got a couple more creature comforts you might want to bring along with you camping. One of the things people sometimes look for is a way to stay warm on colder camping nights. So here we've got a space heater. So this space heater is rated at 1500 watts. So again, right off the bat, that might be a little bit much for the Yeti 1400, but let's plug it in and give it a go. Alrighty, so here we have it running, and right now it's kind of on a middle setting, and looks like it's pulling quite a bit of power here, around 1300 watts. If we bump that up to the max setting and put it on high, that's going to go quite a bit higher. So it looks like it is running here, but as you can see, it's got, an hour to empty. So even though it's going to run, it's probably not going to get you through the night. You can kind of bring the settings down a little bit lower, and that's going to bring your power draw down pretty significantly, but still, again, not going to necessarily be the most power conscious decision. So a great alternative to a space heater is a heated blanket. So we've got a nice big fleece heated blanket here that could keep you warm throughout the night. And if we take a look at the power specs, it's rated at 180 watts. So let's plug that in and give it a try. And turn it on. Alrighty, so right off the bat here, it looks like the display is reading 75 watts. Just keep in mind that there is a potential for a power surge going on with this as well, because again, it's trying to heat up to a certain temperature, but it looks like it's running pretty well at, sticking around 70, 72 watts. So the heated blanket would be a great option for you to run, throughout most of the night and keep you warm. Alrighty, last but not least, we've got our tent camping setup. So this maybe is more of a glamping setup, but if you are tent camping, you might want some power to run fans, blow up air mattresses, run lights inside of your tent, that kind of thing. So a Yeti 400 lithium is going to be an awesome option. It's going to give you some power. You can also keep your phones charged, things like that. But you're probably not going to need anything as big as the 1400. So let's power a couple things off of the 400. So we're going to start right off the bat here with an air mattress pump. Get a nice comfy bed going. Got our pump plugged in here into the 12 volt, and let's turn this on. Alrighty, so as you could see while I was running that, we were pulling about 50 watts off of the air mattress pump. So that'll let you get this air mattress pumped up and ready to go, ready to sleep on. Next up, if it's a really hot night, or even if you're just chilling in your tent during the day, you might want to have a portable fan going, keep you cool. So let's give that one a shot. Alrighty, so this guy's only pulling about 15, 16 watts. So maybe you don't want to run it through the whole night, but at least for a couple hours or till it kind of cools down, you'll definitely be able to run a fan in your tent. Alrighty, well that concludes our Goal Zero Yeti Powers Camping Edition. Thanks for watching, and we hope you learned a bit about what you can power in off-grid camping scenarios. And if you want to learn more, be sure to check out our previous episode, Goal Zero Yeti Powers, the Home Edition, to find out what you can power around the home. Thanks!